And hello again, everybody. Welcome into Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. My name is Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Kind of decompressing after that July 1st craziness where we had all those transactions, uh, $1.2 billion spent there on day one. So I need to take a couple days just to decompress and shut my computer off for a little bit after all that news and all the different things to keep up with. Definitely has quieted down over the last couple days, which is to be expected. We do have a few transactions we can talk about today, along with going over the Boston Bruins schedule that was released actually on July 1st. A lot of teams releasing their schedules for the upcoming season. So always exciting to see what they have in store. Story that I had reported on a couple of videos ago out of Seattle, becoming official today. Jessica Campbell making the jump from the AHL to the NHL bench there in Seattle. She is the first ever full time assistant head coach in the National Hockey League. We knew this was coming for a little bit. I guess they do make it official today. Once again, congrats to Jessica. I think this is long overdue for the league, and when you look at her resume, look at her track record, look at talk to the people that know her down there in Coachella Valley, where she coached the last couple of seasons. She's more than qualified, and hopefully, this is just a nice open door to see more of this here in the future. So, uh, good on that. A lot of reporting out there on it today. If you want to learn more about her or about what's going on out there in Seattle, uh, go ahead and Google it up. You're going to find all sorts of information. But I think it's a great day for hockey, great day for the NHL, great day for the Seattle Kraken. So good on them and good on Jessica. As I said, Bruins schedule is out for this next season. Want to just go over some of the keys and some of the highlights on the schedule. We get to open our first game at Florida on October 8th. I do believe that will be their, banner hanging night there in Miami. So Bruins get to be there for that. Like lucky us, right? First home game will be against Montreal on the 10th. So nice original six, one of our biggest rivals over the years. A nice way to open up the garden. We do make our first and only trip to Utah this year, but our first ever game in Utah on October 19th. On November 9th will be Ottawa at the Garden against Boston. This will be Linus Hallmark's first game back, and that's the game I'm circling, man. I want to see that goalie hug. I don't care y'all wearing different uniforms, man. We got to get the goalie hug. So let's mark our calendars for that there on November 9th. Right around Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving, you've got November 26th. Vancouver comes to town. That will be Jake DeBrusk's first game back, along with, of course, Heinen and Forbert, but DeBrusk being probably the one that we'll all think about on that night. A couple of the West Coast trips that we always make. The first one will be, looks like December 10th through the 19th. And that's where they hit Winnipeg, Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. And then another trip out west, March 20th through the 29th. That's where they'll hit Vegas, San Jose, LA, Anaheim, and then making their way back to hit Detroit before they get all the way home. So always kind of nice to know when those series are. Those are always long trips, a lot of 10:30 starts. So people like myself won't be getting a whole lot of sleep those nights, but that's okay. That's part of what we sign up for. And then the very last regular season game will be on April 15th against New Jersey there at the Garden to wrap things up. Uh, One thing I always like to look for is how often on the schedule are the Bruins looking to play 3 out of 4 nights. This is something that the NHL they try to squeeze this in. This happens to every team around the league, but looking at the calendar, they have got 8 different occurrences where they play 3 games in 4 nights. It's pretty difficult, pretty challenging, even for NHL guys. That's a lot of hockey and not a lot of time, and you kind of have to look at those stretches and reset your expectations. You got, you know, potential for 6 points in those 4 days. If you feel like if you can get 3 or 4 of those points, you're pretty good. Back to backs are challenging, but every team has it. Nothing to complain about here, but they do have that happen 8 different times on this calendar. Twice in November, twice in January, twice in March. So just something to be mindful of. But solid schedule. Um, just kind of taking a quick glance, I don't see any like crazy like stretches of super, difficult games. Of course, you're going to run into stretches where You're going to lose, 3 out of 4, whatever. That happens every season. And it's still hard to tell how every roster is going to look right now. We don't know year to year how these teams are going to look, but fun to see it. I always try to highlight 2 or 3 games to go to myself each season, and I'm fortunate. My company has season tickets, half season tickets, half season tickets for the bees. So I always try to get at least one game with a client uh, on the company, and then typically go myself 2 or 3 times in a year. So looking forward to it as always. Development camps are open across the league as well. Those started up this week. Taking a look around the league, we've got 9 Black Bears, 9 humane Black Bears in different development camps around the US and Canada. So nice number, nice to see it. You've got out in Colorado, Taylor McCarr, forward. He's obviously Kale McCarr's younger brother. Joshua Nadeau playing up in Montreal at their dev camp. Harrison Scott is out in Vegas. David Breazeal is in Detroit, along with Ross Mitten and Boyja, the goaltender. So Detroit definitely investing a little bit of time and energy into our boys. Frank Jerzezovic, I know I butchered that one. I'm so sorry. He is out in Winnipeg. They got Liam Laskowski in Anaheim, and then Brandon Holt also in Anaheim. So scattered kind of throughout the league. Great to see it. This is just a great time for these kids to get some exposure to the coaches, get some exposure to some younger players who are already in the league, some good teaching, and these guys are kind of becoming being put on the radar for these clubs too for potential contracts down the road. So nice to see that for Humane. I think it also tells you that Coach Barr has done a great job of recruiting and bringing talent in. You have Josh Nadeau, brother of Bradley, who's in the league, and of course Taylor McCarr, pretty darn good get. Kale McCarr, one of the best all-round players, and maybe one of the best defensive, if not the best defenseman in the league today. So good on the coach. I can't wait to see how this program continues to develop. Can we get back to those years like we had in the 90s where we're, winning national championships or in the final four? I think Ben Barr has got it on a really good trajectory. And yeah, just great to see this. Great to see it. Looking at the Bruins developmental camp, some talk about Matty Poitras. I think all eyes were on Matty over the last couple of days. Looks good. Mentioned that he has gained about 10 pounds, trying to put some weight on. Pretty slim guy, so trying to bulk up a little bit to be able to take the wear and tear of the NHL season. So really good to see that. Looks healthy. Looks like he's skating well. So he's definitely a guy that if he can take some steps this year, could be a huge part of this group going forward. And Bruins, our Providence Bruins coach Ryan Mojanel, making some comments about Fabian Lysell. It's a name that has kind of percolated, especially over the last couple of days. Once the Bruins did not land another wing in free agency, and DeBrusque and Heinen both walk out the door, a lot of talk about that wing spot on that second line and who's going to fill it. Fabian Lysell is a guy that is going to have every opportunity, I think, to grab that. And according to his coach, feels like he should. He's expecting anyway Lysell to push for an NHL spot this season. Let's hope so. Kid's been a top tier prospect for us for a while. Has really had to work on other aspects of his game, not just be a scorer. Last year down there in Providence, he played 56 games, 15 goals, 35 assists for 50 points. So a decent season. He's not one of those players you're going to bring him up and put him on the fourth line. He just doesn't have that kind of game in him. If you're going to bring him up, if he's going to earn the spot, he really needs to be kind of middle six at the very least. So I think there'll be a ton of eyes on him and on Merkulov coming into camp in September. And man, if we can get some good production out of one or both of those guys, that's really going to help the Bruins out where they're not going to be forced to go out and make a trade or pick up another veteran forward just to fill that spot. We'll see what happens. But perfect opportunity for him if he's going to do it. Now's a perfect time for him to do it. So let's see what happens as we roll into September. Just a few transactions around the league. Not a ton, like I said. After July 1, things have kind of quieted down a little bit. We did have a couple trades out of St. Louis, picking up a few Joseph from Ottawa. and also picking up Radek Foska um, out of Dallas. Both future consideration type of trades, adding a couple players there for themselves. Betterford Maine's Brian Dumoulin, defenseman out of Seattle, does get traded to Anaheim um, for a 2026 fourth round draft pick. And you do wonder for Seattle, they just picked up Brian Montour. Maybe that was kind of Dumoulin's spot. He moves on to Anaheim. Of course, Dumoulin, years in Pittsburgh, has his name on the Stanley Cup a couple of times. Uh, Definitely the pride and joy of Biddeford, Maine. So good to see him in the news. Hopefully, he can be part of an up and coming Anaheim team. It's got a ton of young talent. Not expecting really to be a playoff team this year, but he can be a good veteran presence for a young group. And just before I started recording, literally like a half a minute before I was going to go on, news breaking that Detroit has signed forward Vladimir Tarasenko out of Florida. He was one of the last kind of pure goal scorers left on the market. Gets a 2 year, $4.75 million per season contract. Of course, he started last year in Ottawa, ended up in Florida, raising the cup here just a little while ago. But through the season, had 76 games played, 23 goals for 32 assists and 55 total points. So, veteran guy now. Of course, we all remember him in 19, part of that St. Louis team, um, winning the cup there against Boston. Been a good veteran. He is kind of what he is now. He's not going to be a 45 or 50 goal guy, but can be a good kind of middle six type forward. He gave you 20 to 30 goals a season, and I think he'll fit in well in Detroit. That might be just that last push that they need. Of course, they got Patrick Kane. They've got their group out there, and Tarasenko will, I think, fit in nicely. Is a name that's been kind of talked about in Boston. I don't think we had 4.75 to give him, knowing that we still have to get Swayman locked up, which still hasn't happened. I'm still not panicked about that. I know a lot of people are getting a little bit nervous, but it's going to happen. He's a restricted free agent. You just hope over the next kind of few days, the next couple weeks, they can get something worked out. He was spotted at Warrior, I think yesterday during the dev camp, kind of checking things out. Um, he kind of looked like he wanted to jump on the ice himself, but so I don't think there's anything to worry about. They'll get it done. But yeah, causing a little anxiety, I guess, amongst Bruins fans out there. Uh, Interesting story out of New York, out of New York Rangers camp, that they have been exploring options to trade their captain, defenseman Jacob Truba. Been talked about for the last couple weeks. There was a rumor that he had shot down a deal to Detroit, that he has a no movement clause, and looks like he activated that for that potential trade to Detroit. A big part of the story here is family concerns. He signed in New York, mostly, I think, because his wife is in a medical residency there in the city, and really wants to be there for her. Wants Doesn't want to, create chaos in her life as she's trying to work through that residency. And it looks like he's really fighting to stay there in New York City. This is a side of sports that we kind of forget about. These guys are way overpaid for these guys. They live a charmed life, right? Tons of money, tons of fame. Never buy a steak in the city, right? They lived a charmed life, but there is a human element that we definitely forget about. And when you have family, when you have a wife, children, or other things kind of externally from hockey, it's part of it, right? It has to be. And so this can add a little bit of stress, and it's going to be really curious to see where this goes. I'm not sure how many teams on his no trade list. You have to remember too, Truba is the captain there. So here this week already, we've seen Stamkos, captain of Tampa, traded. We've got Truba. I mean, even if he doesn't get traded, he sticks around there. It's probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable, right? I mean, knowing the team tried to out you and get you out of town. There's also talk about Toronto maybe taking the C off Tavares's chest as well, and most likely giving it to Matthews. There's a lot of rumors around that right now too. So yeah, a little bit of funny, interesting stuff there with the captaincies and some of these teams. But we'll be curious to see what Truba goes. We all know he's a very heavy player, kind of plays on the edge, plays on the border a little bit. Did not have a good playoff. I think he got a little bit exposed. There was some talk maybe he was, injured or beat up or something. But um, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with him. Like I said, Newswire is definitely getting a little more quiet. We're getting ready for 4th of July. I think a lot of teams spent their money. They're already out of bucks. So starting to get a little bit quiet out there. So that's all I have for you guys today. Kind of a quick one. For any UMaine Black Bear fans out there, what are your thoughts on this year? What are your thoughts on the team? It seems like a nice roster. Seems like a lot of potential. 9 guys in camps. Um, leave those comments down below. Would love to hear from you and see what everybody has to say and is thinking out there on this Black Bears team. Like I say, if you like what you're hearing, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below as well. I hope you all have a happy 4th of July. Be safe, and until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.